Welcome to episode 2, where I'll be talking about the trending pediatric subspecialties. Now, trending Twitter topics, trending videos, trending memes, everybody knows. But what are the trending pediatric subspecialties? Super specialty, subspecialties, they are synonymously used. So, pediatric subspecialties. Here is my take on this. A disclaimer: this is based upon the general consensus as well as my own personal point of view. If you disagree with it, feel free to share with me. But it's a healthy discussion, my point of view, that I'm sharing here. So let's go. And what are the trending subspecialties? Now, these trending subspecialties change every year and they are based upon general perception in both the medical community in general and the pediatric community as well. So what we have seen over the last few years. I prepare students, I interact with a lot of students, which includes toppers, it includes people who have not done that well in the exam, and I see the counseling trends also. And what my team has told, what trends they have found, and what people also say, people who are doing DM, that in general we see that neonatology is one of the evergreen, ever-trending subspecialty, right? It is one of the oldest pediatric subspecialty. Maximum seats in DM as well as DNB combined are available in neonatology only. The problem with neonatology is many people, they are not very, somehow they don't relate to neonatology well. It's okay. It's okay. It's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with you. We all have our own interests. Some people love it. Some people just don't like it as much as they do other subspecialties. And there is a saturation also. Yes, saturation problem in metros is a harsh fact related to neonatology. Cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, you will find a lot of good thriving practices of neonatology, and so it is going to take almost similar time for you to set up your practice or join a prominent institute as it would take for a non-DM person. So saturation in bigger towns is a problem in neonatology. Secondly, pediatric gastro. Pediatric gastro is a procedure-based branch. Please remember a fact. If you are looking in terms of financial remuneration, a procedure-based branch will always be more financially rewarding compared to a non-procedure based branch. Because I'm talking from now, this is a perspective I'm going to share, which many of you may not have seen, unless you have worked with some place or you have someone in your family working in private practice. What happens in practice is that, say, I start my practice in a city, like I do my practice in Chandigarh, but say I'm practicing in Delhi. So you can, depending upon which part of Delhi you are sitting, you start your practice as a MD or DNB person. So your fees in general will be ranging between 300 to 400 per person and going all the way up to 900 to 1000. There are exceptions, but vast majority will have OPD fees below 1000 rupees per person, per patient, right? If you are a DM person, it may go up to 1500, 2000, and some of them take up to 2500 rupees as well. But your patient base is also going to be smaller. On the other hand, if you are a DM person, and that DM is a admission based or a procedure based branch, obviously the remuneration part becomes slightly larger. And that is why, because of the endoscopies involved, because of the procedural things involved, because of the relatively vast number of problems associated with gastrohepato part which are involved, you will find that pediatric gastro has slightly better financial returns, provided if you have a own setup or if you are working in a partnership kind of setups. What are the different kinds of setups? What are the different avenues, pros and cons of each? In the subsequent episodes, I will be taking those as well. But right now, remember that pediatric gastro is a trending specialty along with neonatology. Pediatric neurology is also trending. This is called as the thinking branch. Thinking doesn't mean that others you don't have to think, but if you want to, really apply your mind, go into the details, nitty-gritty of all these. If you attend your pediatric neurology posting, you would understand the point I'm making here. Pediatric neurology is slightly difficult branch, but at the same time, getting an EEG before the EEG comes or MRI comes, using your clinical skills to reach the correct diagnosis, starting a particular thing, starting a particular drug, and mixing and matching. When are you going to start an anti-epileptic? When are you going to taper? Should you start a less commonly used off-label drug? Starting that, having the confidence for that, and the patient dramatically improving. This thrill People often say when they join MD-DNB, where is the thrill? Yes, there is thrill, provided you love that thinking part, that pushing yourself to the boundary, looking for those rare syndromes in neurological conditions. And you would also find that there is a widening scope of pediatric neurology. More and more numbers of behavioral disorders are coming into the fold. Families are becoming nuclear. Parents do not have time for their kids. Behavioral issues, again, you can be a pediatric neurologist and you can develop interest in that and have a very good practice. Then pediatric endocrinology, I call it as elite branch, not because the others are not elite. Elite branch means pediatric endocrinology was introduced just a few years back, and there are very few pediatric endocrinologist DM people even in metro towns. So when you are going to become a pediatric endocrinologist, you are going to move into a rare breed. You are going to be a rare breed, and so you will have there is very little saturation is available, and you can have a relatively fast thriving practice. Yes, and emergencies do happen. Diabetic ketoacidosis and the typical Addisonian crisis, etc., will happen. But in general, the number of emergencies or late night duties that you will be performing after your DM is over, that will be relatively less in pediatric endocrinology. If you're doing DM and you're listening to this video, you're thinking, sir, you're saying wrong. This is, yes, while you do your degree, whether it is MD, MBBS, DNB, whether it is DM, you have to do. But after that, once you moved into the field, this is, you will find that how busy you want to be, you can take a call in pediatric endocrinology easily. And diabetes, India is like the diabetic capital. There is an explosion of cases. And according to WHO UNICEF projections, the number of diabetic pediatric patients are going to increase disproportionately compared to the population growth over the next few decades in India. That's a sad fact. So being a pediatric endocrinologist going to give you that patient base also. And then pediatric critical care, it has very good scope in bigger towns. You are actually managing critically care patients, you are actually saving the life of the kid, you are actually taking that last minute decisions which can make a difference in the life of a kid. At the same time, there are good corporate hospital prospects also. Traditionally, our country has been focusing on the primary care a lot, but recently there has also been a thrust in more and more AIIMS institutions being opening up in different parts of the country. And different, corporate hospitals are also expanding into tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. And you will find that more and more pediatric ICUs are being set up. Still, the number of pediatric ICUs available in the country is very small. As more and more ICUs open up, there will be more job opportunities coming up. So if you want to do work in an institutional practice, pediatric critical care is going to hold you in good stead. At the same time, in pediatric critical care, patient interaction with the parents, etc., is going to be relatively less compared to a general pediatrics or other specialties. Also, it is very difficult for you to have your own setup. So private practice, very tricky, very difficult, almost non-existent in pediatric critical care. But these are the trending subspecialties that are there, and this is the reason why I have talked about. Now, in the end, what I will say is the things which I mentioned are related to the prospectus, and the other things which I mentioned, they are the general perception. Please remember, please understand that the purpose of this video is to give you an insight about what all is happening. This is not an academic thing. This is not a textbook thing. You may agree to disagree, that is fine. We can have our own opinions, but whatever I shared is based upon the general opinion that we have. There may be exceptions to this rule. There may be people who will be on the other side of the border when I comment upon a particular thing. But that's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of medical science. There is always a differing opinion. Even two textbooks do not agree upon the same principle. So let's agree to disagree, and people who are doing MD and DNB, keep these things in your mind, and this will give you further clues. And do I mean that other branches are less trending? They are not. It eventually depends upon your rank and your choice. But this is what the pattern of toppers generally shows. So does it mean that the other branches are not important or trending? They are very important. Of course, every branch is important. That is why a DM is there. But this entire list which I said about trending specialties is based upon the patterns in the counselings and the interviews that we have taken of the toppers. So In the next episode, I will be talking about resources and textbooks. Resources and textbooks that you can use. Some of them you may be having, some of them you may not be having. Some of them are less heard, but they are very important. So I will be talking about subspecialty wise. I will be talking about the resources, the textbooks that you should be referring, and I will be sharing. This will be a semi-academic episode that we'll be having. So any doubts you have, you are most welcome to post in the comments, and any further queries you have in the subsequent episodes, we'll be taking up those as well. So I hope you benefit from this. It was less of a formal thing, more of a non-formal interaction where I wanted to address some of the burning questions. I hope you benefit from this. Thank you so much.